Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, on his new camera, he's got a new microphone. He's gone professional. He's gone pro. It's Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Oh, listen to that clarity. You may need to turn your microphones down. If you're used to having to have your speakers up to actually hear Tom, go ahead and wheel that back a few steps. Also joining us this week, very glad to have him back on the show. It is Mr. StoneMonk of the Mortal Realms. How you doing, brother?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Do you have your own apron on?
I thought it was kind of the, dress code.
That is awesome. I mean, given your apron is not as cool as mine, but it's pretty cool.
I didn't want to upstage my host.
Sure. No, that's nice. I appreciate that very much.
Are you in a racing seat?
Yeah. Like it's a little gaming seat. Yeah.
Is it like a motorcycle, not a motorcycle, like a NASCAR seat?
I don't know what it says. It says something. Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's so I can strap in and paint.
That's what it looks like.
Like I'm painting so fast, I got to go for the multi-point. I can't just have a normal seatbelt. When I get painting, you got to strap in, brother, because it's fast and furious over here. Too fast, you might say. Too furious, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, angry paint. Paint angrily.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. No, dude, this is a look. Gaming chairs are awesome because they are meant to be sat in for 20 hours at a stretch, right? Like they build these for people to like sit in and never move. So it has like all this extra lumbar support and all this stuff. Why are we talking about this? I don't know. But yeah, it's a great chair.
New things. We're stepping up the show, folks. Here's the deal.
Yeah.
I'm the first guest in this new era.
That's right. The new era dawns with StoneMonk on the show.
You are, because here's the deal. This is our first broadcast of our 4th year.
I didn't mention this last week, which is hilarious. But yeah, last week was our 3-year anniversary. So there you go.
And so, some things. And, we'll lead with the news. This is the big news for this week. It's not, but we'll lead with the news for this week.
Sure.
That we're, you may see some changes around here is what I would say. There may be a little bit more clarity. Audio may be a little bit better. We're aiming for like a B- maybe.
Yeah, up the game from a C level to a B-. That is correct. We still got to keep.
If you guys wanted to know that because it's your 3rd anniversary together, leather is a traditional gift. Crystal or glass is a more modern gift. If you guys were still searching for something for each other.
That's awesome. That's good to know. I can already imagine the leather jokes that are happening right now in everybody's minds and in the comments.
Well,
so,
Vince, I would love to give you a crystal brush, but it just to allude.
Sure. I think that's out of your control. So, but there you go.
Indeed. So stuff's happening. We put up a poll this last weekend and looking for cartoon characters, if we were cartoon characters. And currently of the voting options, the highest voted one was Vince as a baby Lord of Change and myself as a Nurgling. But if you can think of a better pair, we had a Mega Boss. Vince is a Mega Boss and myself as a Caradron. We had Vince as a Slaneshi, a hermaphroditic demon, and myself as a Blight King.
Shocked that was like one of the lowest vote getters. I would have thought people would have been all over that, but I mean, I don't know.
Yep. And then there's another one, and then this one. So, but if there's another pairing that you think that better represents us, put in the comments.
Drop in the comments. Yeah, Thankful and Bone Ripper was like so close. It was like 1% off. And I would have loved to have you as the big dumb rat ogre that I ride around. That would have been humorous, but nonetheless, it came out as Lord of Change. Sure. So that's yes, I agree. Drop in the comments. Mr. StoneMonk is actually, gonna be putting this together for us. So it's good that we have him on the show.
Maybe.
Well, we have to negotiate. So we'll see. And obviously, if you're not already following,
go track
on Twitter. Yeah, and then don't side stream because I'm about to talk about the Age of Mirth. Okay.
Okay, go.
Very obviously, the Mortal Realms, in addition to the podcast, the videos, and everything he does, you also have been doing the Age of Mirth webcomic that you throw up there every week, and that's been fantastic. So
every week's a little strong.
You've been doing many weeks.
Many weeks.
Some weeks, most weeks.
Yeah. In my fourth year, it'll be every week.
There you go. We look forward to that inevitable day.
We do indeed.
But now that we've faffed around for a long time, let's do some actual news.
Okay, hot breaking news, fresh off the print. Dallas, folks. Dallas is where Warhammer Cafe is going to be.
Yep. Specifically Grapevine, which I guess is like a suburb or something in between Dallas and Fort Worth. So it's in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, just to the northwest of Dallas proper. Right south of Louisville, where ReaperCon was previously, and just right southwest of where Reaper's headquarters actually is, which is like then the next little burb up and around.
Yep.
But it's like a stone's throw in Texas terms.
Relocating their offices or their distribution stuff, I think, from Memphis and their offices to Dallas. So this isn't a real big surprise. We had said Chicago, Dallas, or Memphis as the likely culprits, and surprise, it's Dallas.
Yep.
So.
I'm sad about that. I would have loved a more Midwestern location. Like, I get it. They're right. It is easy to fly into Dallas, Fort Worth. That's true. Like, it is a major hub. It is a big airport. I just would have loved it personally if it was more driving distance. Plus, you never know if Texas is going to secede, and then they wouldn't even be in the United States anymore. So I feel like that's that's a bad call.
Upper Central America.
Anytime.
It's a very British decision to make.
They're gonna get seceded on a second time. That's just not gonna work out well. But nonetheless, that's where it's happening. So I will say that we don't know that this is the only one they do. I mean, obviously, this isn't like a huge. We don't know exactly what this is, but my strong suspicion is it's not like they're building Warhammer World 2 over here, right? They're
Some
clearly
people really think they are. I don't know that that's the case, but I will say that land is cheap in Texas.
Sure, but it's just everything that they've said thus far seems to imply they didn't say Warhammer World is coming to America. They said the Warhammer Cafe. That right there, right? Or like Warhammer World America or something like that.
If we look at the history. Europe often comes to different countries with coffee first and then imperialization later.
That's a good point.
This is their
first strike.
They could be trying to create Texas as, and they're maybe trying to help it secede from the U.S.
as New Britain.
Land.
Yeah, to go back to Britain. Yeah,
as
correct.
New England.
New England.
New England. England Nouveau. Yeah. So Dallas. That's where we're at.
Yeah. Somebody said land is not that cheap in Texas. It's cheap compared to Chicago or New York or something like that. Being the
true.
Like, sure, they could go open up in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, where they could buy the whole state. But like for the same price. But I mean, you got to strike some kind of middle ground.
Indeed. So let's just jump to the rumor engine.
Yeah, man. Am I bringing this up?
You are.
All right. That's fine. Yes.
He brought it up.
Indeed. So fair point. Fair dinkum. The rumor engine this week, I want to start off by saying it's a trick. This is Tom, you're often the one who is like, oh, this is a trap. They're trying to trick us.
No, stop. This is a night haunt.
This is a trick. This is a trap. You're falling for it. It's not. You're being tricked. You're being tricked. You done been tricked.
No, this is Night Haunt.
Did I lock on the right person? Yes, it did. Okay. Here's what I'll say. The Night of Shrouds is coming out. Right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna pull up the image just so that I can prove to you that
I understand. I know what you're gonna show, but please do so we can do a comparison.
Yep,
that's fine. It looks. I'll spoil it right now. It looks exactly like the layer of the Night of Shrouds, right?
Yep.
So, to me, there are two possibilities. And the first is that this isn't the Night of Shrouds, right? Like, they're not showing a rumor engine for a fig we've already seen. It's very similar, but it's not exactly the same. So two possibilities. One, this is the foot ghost guys with human arms. that are in the art that the Knight of Shrouds is leading? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And so this is a new Night Haunt thing.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I'll see if I can find the art while we're talking.
Everybody see what I'm talking about? What we're talking about here?
No, because you're locked on me right now. But I will stop sharing and we can bring it up since we've now shared that. So now let's look at your picture. Now we'll look at your picture, Tom.
So there's his butt.
And you've got bottom? Chain. You got layer, chain, layer. Ugh, God, what is happening?
It's jumping around. Sorry.
Jeez, oh, Pete, we get the point. Yes, there you go. Just leave it there. Stop touching it. Okay. We have cloth, chain, cloth. It's not exactly the same. There's no little hole that matches that. It's not this actual model, but it could very easily be something similar, no doubt. Indeed. Okay. I don't disagree. That's why I think it's a trick. It's so on the nose. Either one, they really are just telegraphing, like, here you go. Or
like, death really is coming. It's not coming now, but it is coming.
Or two. Okay. Here's the reason that I don't like that as an idea.
Yeah.
Because why would you just not have included, like, that guy's not in this book.
I know.
This current book that includes Night Haunt as a thing. This current book that has, all of the models currently in the range. Unless you're planning on doing like a whole Night Haunt book. Okay. Which maybe, I mean, who knows? Anything's possible. There could be another death tome. The only way this works out is if there's a second death tome at the end of this. And because Nagash is like waning in power, he's been smashed against the rocks. Slanesh is back, consumed part of him. Shaiish is in civil war. Like they could do a whole story thing, and then you could play like pre or post Malign Portent's armies, and that'd be fine. Wouldn't be the first time we've ever had multiple time periods existing in the same narrative. Okay, but I think they found a section of another model that looked a heck of a lot like the Knight of Shrouds, and we're like, we done going trick them. That's what I think. I really do. This is too much of an on the nose. Like, that is really telegraphed.
It's elves.
I mean, it could be a lot of things, by the by. Like, it's all that is cloth, chain, cloth.
But it's ripping, it's cloth with a hole in it.
I get it. Okay. Whoa. You're right. Only ghosts have holes in
it. Like, and as, like Graveguard have the same format as well.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. Lots of undead.
I would say one point that could be in favor of it being on the nose is that there's definitely, this whole death release and kind of the fans of death still waiting on new models. Maybe they're just throwing a bone and saying, hey, there's new models.
The other thing that they could be is they could be new sculpts. Well, like, I know it sounds weird. Like, you'd expect it to release maybe with the Nagash, but maybe not. We could do a short release that to literally just replace boxes like zombies or whatever. That could be potentially in the cards.
Well, zombies got repacked, so that ain't happening.
Yeah. Sure.
There was about 15,
as I said last week, zombies got repacked, and yes, they came up. The classic zombies, zombie classic, now on rounds. So for those of you hoping for new zombies, sorry. Enjoy your time with your bat swarms and your zombies. That's my advice to you.
It's just so depressing.
I feel like GW could corner the entire market of every zombie game if they just released them.
It's true. I thought about like what I would do if I needed to make zombies, and I thought about using, like, obviously mixing the zombie and the Free People's kit, and maybe getting some of the Plague Bearer hands. I don't know if you've seen the Plague Bearer, like the Plague Bearer arms and hands are all like, well, the ones that don't have the swords are all like crinkled and weird and warped, and they have like flesh peeling off. And they would maybe make, they would do really well for something like that for some conversions as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, just stop with human zombies. You need,
and I could do like goblins and stuff like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what you need to do for zombies? 1, start with any existing kit. 2, get out an X-Acto knife and put some hacks into it and trade some parts for bones. And then 3, paint them looking like they're dead. because zombies are just dead people in various states of rot, and that's like can largely be a paint thing. And so, I mean, whatever, it's fine. That's my opinion on zombies. But yes, I am saying this is totally a trick. They're tricking us, and we're all just falling right for it. And it's gonna come out, and it's gonna just be like a total left field curveball. So there you go.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll go ahead and say Plastic Sisters of Battle because there you go. Why not?
Little did you know they're coming in chainmail.
Sure, yeah, they're wearing chain. I mean, whatever. It's fine.
Well, since Vince reset that clock, let's jump to the next news item. GW, in their fine professional trolling form, released a video this last week. Kudos to you, GW. It was a fantastic video. It's actually my pick of the week, so I want to encourage you all to, we'll have the link below because it's amazing. But basically, I don't want to spoil the video, but it involves clocks and resetting clocks with the mention of things that people want released.
I mean, are we seriously not going to talk about what it is? We're going to talk about what it is.
Yeah, and then but at the end of the video, they announced a squat is coming.
Yeah, they don't say the word squat in the video, but it is a squat, and they do say squat in the Horus Heresy Weekender. Then they showed the fig, the painted fig.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The last squat.
Well, I mean, could be the last, could be the first of many. Who knows? Obviously he's for Necromunda.
Yeah.
Right. And just like the beast man guy that they did, where he's just like it's an abhuman bounty hunter, right?
Yeah.
And what this told me is that whatever, man. I already thought the rules didn't apply anymore before.
Yeah.
But now, GW,
we have a plastic squat character.
Yeah, GW is on the Marvel track, right? Where they're just gonna they're gonna start Marvel got to a point where they were just yeah, we'll make a $130 million movie about a talking tree that says one sentence and a raccoon, and you're gonna love it, like a raccoon that wields guns, and it's gonna be one of the best movies we've ever made, and that's gonna be two of your main characters,
and that happened, and
it worked, right? And so they're great, well, and they just keep getting crazier, they're just at the height of their powers and hubris, right? So GW is maybe on that a couple steps down, and they're just gonna keep they're gonna keep taking these shots, and eventually they're just gonna swing for the fences. And just be well, anything can happen now. So, I shudder to think of what this year could bring for new armies in both 40K and AOS, because it's these little tiny things of bringing back Eisenhorn in 28 mil, bringing back Sly Marbo, putting out the big kits, the big Primarch kits, bringing back a squat, tells me that they're just they're just constantly tiptoeing in the water, and they're willing, once they get the chance, they're just going to, once they see something come down the middle of the plate, they're going to get a hold of it. That's all. So there you go.
Just really want Plastic Sisters of Battle.
I do, but that's just it. Sure I do. Yeah, no doubt. But you know what I want even more than that is cool, interesting armies, whether I want to buy them or not, by the by. Right. Yeah. And the Daughters of Cain to me was a great example of that, though they were based on something. I do want to see something totally new. I don't need to see only the old things that I love explored. Make new things too. Most of the great stuff that we now love are because at one point in time they were new. These games didn't spring into existence fully formed.
Sure.
So at some point we have to try new things. Some will catch. Some will become, permanent parts of the world. So yeah, I want to see them keep swinging hard. That would be my point.
Yeah, I mean, Caradron are an example of them swinging hard.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, yes, I totally agree. And again, that's a great example where that's a thing I had interest in. Okay, I could not care, wouldn't ever buy one of those little stunty dudes, but I am super happy they exist because I think they're a cool army. They have their own unique fluff and personality. They very much make the Mortal Realms its own distinct thing. I want to see more of that. So there you go.
Agreed.
All right, what else we got?
It's a great question. The Shadespire. We had the Skaven. We had articles this last week for both Grimnir's axes or whatever the Fire Slayers, and then just today we've had the Skaven Shadespire release as well. Models look awesome. They're going on pre-order next week. They're drop dead sexy.
Yeah, they're good looking Skaven models, that's for sure. I thought they were really interesting play wise because they are all kind of crappy models, but like the leader can call them back in. They're all very mobile. They can get called back onto the board, and they can deploy like from the enemy zone, like they can zone back on the board. And I thought their inspiration mechanic was really cool. That if they're targeted by a ploy, by either you or your opponent, right? So like they're very creative. I think they'll be a super interesting crew to play for sure. So
did you see what inspires the Fire Slayers?
I did not. I'll be completely honest. That Chosen Axes article came up, and I was like, nope, blown by that.
Standing on an objective.
Oh, really?
Boom.
That's interesting. That's cool.
And like their movement and everything goes up. They're like, I'm gonna hang out here. Okay, go.
Nice. That's pretty cool. I dig that. All right.
Yeah. So it adds another layer of tactics for people needing pushes and stuff like that to keep them off from inspiring.
Huh. Okay. Dig it. I like that. Yeah, I'm glad to see these 2 new crews. I want to see more. Like I can't wait to see what other war bands they come out with. So
agreed. With the league, they're gonna have a bunch of other things coming as well. They've announced like the organized play and all the bits and pieces and baubles and stuff like that. GW is also having a big organized play push for Malign Portents. We know that the painting competition, the due dates on that are, I believe, February 10th for painting up a starter from the new getting started collect like sets.
3 days left.
So 3 days left. Are either of you doing any of those?
I have the pieces from the Death Rattle Horde box, and so my local guy said I could just paint those up, but not happening this week. I've got a few other things I'm doing.
Yeah, like Eric, that's exactly where I'm at. Like I'm finishing my 30 Longbeards, and I have just like I need to do touch-ups on 30 Volkites. I have a basing of like 60 minis. And somehow I need to get a magma drought done in the next 3 days in order to turn in that painting competition. Like he is assembled and primed in Zenithal, and I'm like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Well, aren't magma droughts just all dry brushes and washes, basically? So you should be able to do it.
No.
I hear they just turn into lava at the end of the game anyway.
That's true.
Just melt it.
Yeah, you should just have like a little fireball, like one of those little smoke markers from 40K for destroyed tanks.
Just the base with like a whole bunch of lava and then smoke.
Yeah, after he's dead. This is the post-charge magma drought. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna score me any points in the painting competition. So,
yeah, probably not.
So I am not gonna get mine done either. I'm pushing pretty hard on for Holy Wars. So we'll see if we get that done. Malign Portents and Nagash, obviously they're dropping this week. We're not going to cover them real in depth. What I will say is that there are lots of leaks that are out there. The points are available. Almost nothing changed. Very few things moved around. A bunch of the battalions dropped. The battalions got they're super cheap. Battalions are like between 70 and 110 points. There's like 160. So it's a very surprising kind of shift in battalion points.
Do we think that heralds is that heralding a move, like a back off of the battalion pointing?
Maybe. I hope so.
Or maybe Death is just getting something nice. Can it be that Death is just getting something nice?
No, you're not allowed to have anything nice.
No, I will say I do want to point out some interesting mechanics that have popped up from this. It's interesting that they seem to be playing with some of the general requirements. So for example, if like Nagash is in a army, he has to be in a grand host. Like he can't be in any of the sacrament armies, like any of the armies for like his lower generals. So if Nagash included, he has to be Grand Host, and if he's on the table, like if he's in your army, he has to be General. And so,
real quick here, I just want to touch on something real quick. There's a question asked in the comments. The announcement is Tom has a new microphone, new camera, new recording equipment, and so now he has no excuse. I meant to mention this at the top of the show. I will mention it now. Now that you have all this stuff, Tom, you are officially out of excuses not to make some videos every so often. So there you go. I'm sure we're going to actually see some more content from Tom coming in the fourth year of our show.
That is part of the conversation. Yes.
Also, no one need to worry about him being clear anymore.
Yes.
Exactly. Now that he's got this new camera, he'll just be clear all the time.
I don't need to say, let me be clear.
Uh-huh.
Or let's be clear here. Because you can hear me in rich sound. And you can see me in 1080p. So
there you go. Although right now you're kind of fuzzy on my screen. I wonder how it's coming out to the audience. It'd be very funny if like you were streaming too much for your internet, like because you turned the quality way up, it's actually going down because your crappy internet can't keep up with it.
Yep, that could be true. That could be
at any rate. So back to Nagash. I'm sorry. Yes, it's the splits there are interesting. There was a little bit of battle line shift around, I think, of the conditional battle lines.
Yep.
There was. One of the interesting things to me was they moved Graveguard onto the Chaos Warrior Liberator thing, the Elite Infantry 5-pack. Like you can buy them in 5ers now.
I think they were.
I'm pretty sure you always could.
Oh, I thought they were 10ers before.
No, they were always 5. No, because they were the identical. They were identical with Tomb Guard.
Oh, well, there you go. Shows how much I paid attention to non-TK death. I thought that was different, but okay.
No, the Graveguard, Tomb Guard were identical in profile and everything, and so and they were always on the same purchase.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Then I take that back. Yeah, I mean, overall, it was fine. Nothing jumped out at me. Yeah, I personally do think the battalion thing will herald some changes in the new GHB, and that is to say, I think what they did last time was blanket move a bunch of them up. Or all of them up, right? Not a bunch. Like for the most part, almost every battalion took a big hit. I'm just shot up in points to account for it, right? I think what we'll see now is a more targeted rolling back where they'll be on a much broader spectrum, right? There'll be some that are minimally impactful and minimally beneficial, and those will be cheaper. And the spectrum will be, can it turn you into a 1-drop, and does it give you super powerful abilities, right? If it's like very hard limited, like it's these 3 units, and those 3 units ain't an army, right?
Right.
Then, and the abilities they get are like, yeah, those are neat. Those are neat things. Then it'll be cheaper because it's clearly meant to be part of a larger force.
Yeah, maybe. Right? I mean, like, there's a Horticulous battalion in the Nurgle stuff that would meet those requirements, and it was still ass expensive. It was like 200 or 220 points. As opposed to like Nagash's battalion in the new Death Book, which is like Nagash, Morghast, and then 3 or more of any of the units. So it could be a 1-drop. And it's like
I would also argue that I think the Nurgle book, based on what we know, was done a long time before the Nagash book.
And which is also probably true. Yeah.
The biggest change I think for this book is that you will now see zombies, skeletons, and direwolves like crazy because those are battle line. Those are the only
other changes for zombies, by the way, as an aside. You can't merge them any longer.
So they closed off that design space. The that was it, because that is a design space thing. That zombies were the only ones who had a bite at that apple, and now it's gone.
And now it's gone. Yeah, those are gone. And then Blood Knights didn't move at all, and they don't have any regen because they're not a summonable unit. So that'll be interesting. Poor Blood Knights.
Yeah. But they're going to be +1 attack in certain armies and be able to dish out more pain before they take anything back. So it's hard to know what the full equation is going to look like. But it's one of those things where it's sometimes like things are obviously not broken in death. Why change certain things if they're not, so but I'm excited for the overall look at the army. We've had good reviews from Tyler Mengel and some of the people out there playing it, so there's good things.
There's also I watched a nice review for Malign Importance this week as well that I would point folks to, where they walked through the book and then did a battle report. And it looks like it's going to be a neat book. So I have all that on pre-order. I'm excited to have it in hand next week.
Nice.
I played a game of AOS this last weekend in prep for I ran my tournament list for Holy Wars. And my friend ran a Death Army, like a current. He used the new scrolls, but he had nothing else because like the new scrolls were in the app.
Yep.
And I mean, I just smashed him off the table. Like, I mean, it was just an absolute. It was a beating. It was a grotesque beating, and that's whatever. That is what it is.
He knew what this was.
Yeah, like he didn't take a real hard edge list, and it was fine. It was a real fun game. But and I don't mean that just I said that. He said that too afterward. I said, look, let me get one more good shot in on you before you just start murdering me ruthlessly once you get your new book, because that's what's going to happen. Like, it's just the tables are going to turn immediately. And so I accept losing for like the next 6 months after this. So that's fine. I'm okay.
Is this the same guy who brings the iron weld and he now gets Lord Ordinator?
It's the same guy. Cause he plays, he has an Empire army that is an old school Empire army that is painted in like death. Like the soldiers are dead and all that. You understand what I mean? Like all the dead. You get what I mean? Yeah. He took the normal people and
pre-Gale dead army.
Yes. So he uses them interchangeably as both. There you go. Anywho, yeah. What else? Is there anything else? Do we have any other news? No, we're just wandering all over the place here.
No, I think we're dead.
We're opening our 4th year by just completely just rambling through the news just on a stroll.
We're good. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be doing a full-fledged death review of, breaking down the book, talking about that stuff in weeks to come. Yeah, exactly. Once all of it's out there, we have time to ingest and think about the whole picture. I don't like everybody's like giving their hot take, looking through a keyhole.
Right. Which is why I'm not talking about it. Like, that's why we're not pushing it, is because we don't know the whole picture, and I don't want to speculate until we know what all of it looks like.
I'll make one guarantee.
Go for it. Go.
Vampire Lord Ravenclaw on Zombie Griffin will be at Adepticon.
Nice.
So regardless of what happens, dude's going to make it.
Nice.
I am very glad to hear you will be there, my friend. It's good that you decided to make the 1.5-hour drive to come down and join us.
Yeah. I mean, if it will help if people go and they buy some dice and some tokens from the Mortal Realms, but you can find me on Twitter for that. Or
we can put that link down below. So for those of you who don't know, like, I have no problem with spruiking this because it's awesome. Like, I'm a believer in this product and all that. Okay. So for those of you who don't know and who have never attended a holy event or anything that the Mortal Realms sponsors, the Mortal Realms podcast, I wish I had the tokens near me. I would have been prepared.
I have them upstairs. Sorry.
You make so Eric and the Mortal Realms crew makes a whole bunch of punchable like cardboard tokens that are really nice. They're flippable. So like one side says +1 save. You flip it over, it says like -1 save, +1 to hit, -1 to hit. Blah 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 blah. Immune to battle shock, shockproof or whatever, and so on. Right. And they're great. There are a little stack of them. They're super useful. You can drop behind your units. They help you remember stuff. He has a huge amount of them.
They have rerolls and hits and wounds and all the deal.
All the good stuff. Basically everything you would want for all your common effects. Are there certainly some that are weird? Yes, of course. But for the vast majority of your buffs, they got you covered. And you do them at an amazingly good price. How much is a stack of tokens?
So right now for Adepticon, you can get 20 tokens that are dual side. For 20 statuses total for $5. Pick them up at Adepticon.
So there you go. So whether you're going to Adepticon or not, $5. It's a super good deal. I use them like legit. The only reason this isn't me not getting anything for this. This is just me spruiking this because I use your tokens every game, dude. So that's no joke. The only problem I have is I keep losing the shockproof ones because we toss those around so much and they move around. Then they end up like under terrain. That's my fault. That's not yours. Fortunately, I got a bunch of extra ones because I've stolen Tom's for like the last 2 years at Holy Wars. So I'm still covered.
That is a true statement.
All right. So I'll throw that link down below and that way people can check it out. So yes, there you go. Cool. Okay. Let's move to some pick of the week. So we just kind of covered one, but that link will be down there. But Eric, what else would you like to point out to the audience for their pick of the week?
My pick of the week would be wearetheneon.com, and that is the home base of the Narrative Event Organizers Network. And as of recent, that's primarily head up by Aaron Bastian. He kind of makes sure that blog keeps going. And recently, Brian Orban, who's a new addition to the Coalescence crew for the June event, has been posting some great stuff on there about, just getting ready for, just doing your own event, venues, just getting ready, etc. Coalescence has 2 events this year, we had one last year, 45 events played around the globe. And so we actually have 2 different teams, but you can find out everything you need to know that's available about Coalescence up there. And more information will be coming out that way. And if you want to run an event in your area using the game pack we provide either on March 17th or June 23rd, go to wearetheneon.com and register. There you go.
Very nice. We'll drop that link down below as well. Tommy, what about you, man? You mentioned your pick of the week already.
Yeah, I did. So 3 things, though. Yes, I mentioned the pick of the week. I had 2 other news items that I just dawned on me.
Oh, sure.
The first being just to jump back to the Warhammer Cafe thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4,000 square foot venue.
Okay. So it's big, but not massive. Yeah.
4,000 square feet is their aim. Hosting guests, they'll have unique displays and offering extended ranges, exclusive surprises, and host the Warhammer events in North America. Okay. Anyways, those are some of the details. There's a job posting for the general manager, by the way, for if anybody's interested. That has been made available. The other news item is that, and I can't believe I forgot this. The U.S. Community team has launched their the event packet this last week. Chuck has made it available. Lots of hands touched that and shaped that and influenced that, and it's like a 50-some page document composed of a number of different modules to help people who are planning on organizing events, whether they be competitive tournaments or narrative events or the like, to figure out what it takes to do that and at what level you're doing that. Is it a local event? Is it a regional event? Is it a national event? Or like a tent post event type thing? And it has different modules for like how to run painting competitions. Vince authored that. Excellent. Thank you, Vince. As well as a number of other modules. And there's even some player modules of like, as a player, here's the kind of things that, even if you're not running events, it's worth reading, to read up on things like sportsmanship, like what expectations can often be. And, hopefully or TOs will have put that in packets, but it's a helpful resource across the board. So I would encourage you all to check it out, and we will have a link to that in the show notes as well.
Right on. Yeah, no, that's a great call. I can't believe we forgot that either, because I even made a note about it before, but then I forgot to add it in. So yes, shout out to Chuck, who, to be very clear, a lot of hands touched it, but it wouldn't have happened without Chuck. So Chuck Moore,
Amen. Yep.
He ran point on this and moreover herded a lot of cats. It was a great effort on his part, doing a sort of but nonetheless, he did it with a smile. He made sure everybody's input and voice was valued. And I think what came out of it was something that actually is empowering to the community. It's not prescriptive in any way. It doesn't say this is how you have to do things. Not in any way, shape, or form is that what this is about. This is about empowerment, giving you ideas. It even offers you in many, many, many places, here are other ways you could shape this to make it your own, right? Which I think is the key. It's about helping people cover the knowledge gap when they want to run an event and just don't know where to start or what to do. So it'll take you through the whole thing. So there you go. Thank you to everybody who contributed, but obviously a very big thank you to Chuck. So
indeed,
a great success. Okay. It's funny too. That's a great segue, because my pick of the week is actually something Chuck wrote on his blog. Because Chuck wrote an article about Marathi. He wrote a great article with kind of a history of Marathi since she's coming back. And a lot of maybe newer players aren't as familiar with the history of this character. She's been around for a while. She has a very colorful background, and she is a singularly awesome character. She is one of my faves in Kane, in the End Times Kane book, and she goes back a lot farther than that, obvi. So check that out. I'll link to Chuck's blog so you can go check that out, because it's a really cool. He does all the work for you if you're into that lore, and you want to know more about, the newborn returned leader of the Daughters of Cain. It's a great primer for that upcoming faction. So check that out down below. So let's talk about some hobby time, because I know we're all busily working on stuff. Mr. StoneMonk, what do you got? What are you working on?
Well, I'm slow burning some Drakari John Overlords.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to prep every single skeleton that I have built and unpainted in my collection. I'm working on trying to release this packet for on Friday, and I'm probably 90% of the 99% of the way there. And then just trying to keep up with the Age of Mirth and the podcast and the YouTube channel, and I'm probably gonna die soon from just trying. All the creativity in my brain is gonna go out my ears in like a month's time, and then I'll have nothing left. I'll be a vegetable.
Well, I look forward to that. That'll be good. Yeah. So yeah,
you'll have me on the show.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no issue with that. We'll still bring you back. Don't worry.
Sweet.
It's over to Eric. Thanks, Eric. All right, great as always. Okay, so obviously a lot going on there. I look forward to seeing all those death guys, man. That's going to be I really liked your work you did on the cloaks. You're using like Chaos Warriors as the base for your Grave Guard.
Yeah,
which I think are a perfectly fantastic conversion. I think Chaos Warrior armor bases are like one of the better silhouettes ever. I don't mind that they're sort of static. Yeah.
And I think that works for death. Some of that, especially in big armor, you're not going to be too animated in giant armor. So
yeah, they probably got a lot of empty space in there. Like that's mostly nothing inside that armor, to be completely fair, right?
Inside there they're just dancing, but you just can't tell.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're big boned, so there you go. That's what happens. All right, Tom, what about you, brother? What are you working on?
So obviously I am furiously working on my Fire Slayers, or my not just Fire Slayers, my everything, my why is this not showing? Sorry, I'm trying to get this photo up and it's just not working. I don't know why it's not working. I'm furiously working on my project, which for Holy Wars. I'm now in the final highlights and stages of doing my Longbeards, and I love these dudes. They it ended up working perfect. This is just a quick snap, so I didn't go into detail. They're not posed, but you can see some of what's going on here, and they came out really nice.
Yeah.
These are the actual bases too. He just wants to really show that they're walking across like a martial arts training.
Yes, they're tall.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. No, they came out nice, and I'm excited about that. And so, yeah, it's funny. I took a similar force to Holy Havoc, but I did the math yesterday, and only 35% of my models will have been at Holy Havoc. So I will literally have painted 2 out of every 3 models will have been freshly built, painted, assembled, kit bashed, whatever. 2/3 fresh for Holy Wars.
Gotcha. So look, let's be honest here. Okay.
Yep.
Let's just throw down right now. Okay.
Yep.
Because the 3 people in this talk right now.
Yep.
Right. Because Eric, you're going to be at Holy Wars, correct?
He's not.
No.
Oh, you're not?
No.
I thought Eric was going to be. How did you not come to Holy Wars? I don't even know what to do with you. All right.
I haven't been yet. I have to make choices, and Adepticon is the choice this year.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
I accept. All right. Well, then never mind. We won't throw down because it's going to have a conversion throwdown because there's a best conversion trophy this year.
Oh, there's a best conversion. I will say this though. I had a conversation with Steve, and I may not be eligible for some of the awards because this army technically took home awards for Holy Havoc.
Yeah.
Even though like 2/3 of the models are all brand new. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know what I'm going to be eligible for is what I would say.
That's fine. All right. So at any rate, moving on then. Your army's coming together well, Tom. Looks great.
Thanks.
Myself, I finished up my other stuff that I needed to do for Holy Wars, short of my display board, which looms over me like the sword of Damocles. This freaking project.
You just pull down the dark cloud and put it on a styrofoam base, and there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I did order everything for it. It all came in today. So this weekend, I'm going to start in earnest on that. In the meantime, though, after finishing up, the competition things I was working on, and then everything for Holy Wars, I wanted to do something fun. So I decided to paint up my first test model for my daughters. I happen to have a Blood Rack Medusa. So here she is. She's not done yet, obviously, because I haven't done the metallics on the gold, but let's see if we can. There you go.
I see some pink and some teal.
Yeah, exactly. She probably doesn't come through super well. But just fun things like I'm playing around with spotting on her scales. This model is very annoying because like the micro detail is very hard to see. Like she has the demon spots on her main torso here. It's tough to see. I have scales that are colored on there. You can see you see the patterning on the scales. But like, it's just, everything is so tiny. This model is simultaneously one of the more beautiful models they made and one of the most annoying because they asked them. This is like the Jurassic Park model. They asked themselves if they could and never stopped to ask if they should. Like all this little blood spatter all over her. The micro detail on these snakes is like so ridiculous that there is just no way to properly pick it all out. You know what I mean? Like they went too small on a lot of this stuff.
Here, you heard it here first, guys. Vince gave up.
No, I just had to use different methods that are annoying.
Okay. So
did you file off all the blood, Vince?
No, because it's impossible. Like it's big splatters across there. Like you'd have to. It would be. I wouldn't say impossible. It would be nearly impossible because not only do you have to get rid of the drips, but it's glommed onto her like glue. You'd have to file it off, sand it down, and then rebuild it up. And again, the scales are micro scales, right? Not like normal scales. You could green stuff like a human being, right? Like I'll green stuff scales. I have no problem with that. I had to green stuff scales for my Maw Crusher, okay, because he has joints that were missing, so I did green stuff scales. These scales are smaller. I had like a 000 brush tip is bigger than some of these scales. That's too small. That's ridiculous. Okay. Anyway. So here's the bright side. Looking at the new Medusa and the Daughters of Cain video, they learned from this.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like if you look at the scales, they're bigger. If you look at the sort of like underbelly plating, it's much smoother in the way that it's applied. She also has this like ridiculous contrapposto pose where like she's really twisted in a weird way, which is annoying. But anyway, so that's my color scheme. We're going pink and teal. It'll be up soon. Who would have thought it? Yeah.
You do it well though, so we're excited.
I'm not going pink and teal.
Well, I want to do
pink and teal.
Pink, teal, and black. So I think that'll look good on the witch elves too, because the witch elves can be pink with like green accents in their hair and green tattoos, like teal tattoos, and then black leather boots and stuff like that. So there you go. So I'm excited for it. Yeah, there you go. That's hobby time. I also am going to do, so I'll talk about another thing I'm going to do real quick. That Greywater Fastness army that they posted up, which was like a crappier version of the one that we had schemed out here or whatever, because they use that artillery battalion and it's still like 6 drops. What? No, just lean into it. Go like 12 drops. Who cares? Just like accept that you're going to lose, right? You don't need to be taking all that other junk for the artillery detachment because it's not giving you anything of value. But instead, I'm going to make my Imperial. I decided I want to do my Imperial Guard 2,000 point Greywater fastest army. So that'll be the Lord Ordy who fits in here. A Lord Ordy, the Huracanum, 3 steam tanks, 2 Hellblasters, and 30
Paratree.
Exactly, and 30 handgunners, 3 blocks of 10 specifically for the battle line. And it's going to be an interesting challenge. I'm saying this because it'll be a thing that that hopefully will give benefit to other people on the channel, as I'm thinking I'm going to do a challenge of painting 2,000 points in a week. And I'll do a series of videos about how I paint, or how to go about painting a massive amount of stuff quickly to a relatively high standard.
Yeah.
And how I approach it, like how I break it down and think about it, walk you through the techniques I use to really cheat like crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And Paul Conti had challenged you to do something like this.
Yes. So there you go. That'll be the sort of like, it'll be a series of videos separate from everything else. That'll be all about like, I'm not going to put it together in a week. Like I'll have everything assembled and converted and stuff like that. And then the painting, how to paint 2,000 points in a week. So there you go. So that'll be a fun little project that'll come up at some point in time when I have, whoa boy, excuse me, when I have the time. That came upon me like a storm. Anyway, so let's talk about Renown and Ruin. Let's get to the feature segment. Releasing this week, the Mortal Realms. We're holding you to it. You're on a show now talking about it, so it better come out. Don't make me a liar, Eric.
Well, I was gonna release it at a lower quality of design because I just wanted to get it out there, because it's one of those things where you do something and we're playing it and I've got my crew playing it, but at some point you got to put it out and just get other feedback, see if it's any good or if you just live in a lame bubble.
Sure. Absolutely.
So it will get out this Friday. No question.
So, all right, good. Let's stop beating around the bush. What is it? What are the people going to see?
All right. So Renown and Ruin came out of me and the Mortal Realms crew and some of our friends saying, hey, we want to do something a little different. We had a little bit of an itch for the role play, and it when Sam James's Hinterlands came out, we had play tested that one pretty heavily and given him a bunch of feedback that made it into the second version of that. And that was prior to Skirmish coming out. But one of the things that he had in there was this idea of the Realm Master, the idea of multiple war bands playing in cooperation rather than in challenge to each other. So most of the Skirmish campaigns, or you think of the Mordheim style, is 2 war bands show up over an area and they both want the treasure or the whatever that's there, so they fight it and to see who wins. But this idea of the Realm Master was somewhere between wargaming and role play, where there's a GM or a Realm Master who kind of sets up all the scenarios and poses the challenges for the players. And it didn't have a lot. It had a couple scenarios and a couple ideas on kind of taking the Hinterlands rules and just broadening it a little bit. And so we took that and decided to pretend and make some stuff up. And that's really formed as we're having our 8th session of that tomorrow night prior to the release. And, over those 8 sessions, we've just kind of said, this works, this doesn't work, this would be better. This would be more fun. And that's what's in this current pack, this first version of the pack. It's not a lot. I would say at the heart of it is a little bit of a different concept, because it's not in a lot of the fun of Mordheim is the kind of each model it has its own life and ups and downs and potential. In order to focus more on the cooperation between warbands, we don't go that route. So Renown and Ruin is more about kind of the reputation of your hero, and the number of followers, the size of the warband, and then other effects in the world are the affect of that, right? the result.
Right. Do you think narratively the way you envision it is it's allowing people to somewhat role play in weak terms? I just mean that because it's not like we're still not like making this D&D game or something, right? But the point being is that it's allowing them to role play their warband through a specific personality, right? Namely through their hero. So it's bringing one character into a sort of spotlight, but obviously that character probably embodies the attitude of the warband as a whole, being the leader.
Yeah. So what was cool about Age of Sigmar Skirmish when that came out, it was a little bit different than Hinterlands. It was maybe a little bit more simple. But what was cool is this. What's always nice and have being a narrative event organizer with Coalescence, one of the things that's always on my mind is like, what are the signals that help you kind of immerse yourself in the narrative of what you're playing, right? What are the different things? So one of the things that's easy but kind of takes you out of the narrative is this idea of points, that you're playing a points game. But what was cool about Skirmish is it took everything to Renown. You have you have this Renown, and instead of thinking of it just as a different name for point systems, like Mordheim had crowns, right?
You're right. Yep.
So instead of thinking like money or like a resource, I really wanted to take the literal idea of renown in terms of your reputation. That this was a number of the reputation of your warband, and you don't spend your reputation. What you do is your reputation begets things.
Right. And I think one of the interesting things which you've touched on in some, because you have some videos talking about this, both you all recounting your game as well as kind of explaining the basic premises. So go check out the YouTube channel for StoneMonk for the Mortal Realms, which I'll link below. But one of the interesting things I think you touch on is the increased reputation has both good and bad consequences, right? And so that is, I think, one of the great keys is that, like, generally when you talk about money or points, right, as you amassed them, it was all upside. Yeah, like you had more money, you got to buy more stuff, you got cooler things, you had better toys, all that. Whereas by making it more of an abstraction, it can have both positive and negative consequences to how your warband is perceived and interacts with the rest of the world.
Yep. And those are a lot. There's a lot of soft mechanics there that the Realm Master can play with. I hope that in the future I can maybe bring some hard mechanics to that if it's necessary. But that's kind of the core of the concept that I want everything to reverberate off of. Is that, I mean, let's face it, when a warband or when a hero, when we're playing a hero in a battle in some sort of campaign system, we're looking to build our own reputation as a general or our character's reputation as a influencer in the world that we're creating. And so this is a very, very literal expression of that. You guys talk a lot about designing things for motivation. This game is all designed around wanting to gain renown and not lose renown. And that's the other side of it. Instead of there's not a risk of injury. There's not a risk of dying, right? If you die in combat, it's assumed that you just hide under a rock, and then when everything clears over, you slink away.
Sure.
But what happens is that if you lose, your reputation goes down. And in the same way that if I go and slay this beast or I find this great relic, my followers were going to head back into town or into our campsite. They're going to go have a beer. They're going to talk. They're going to share these stories. They're going to inflame them. The fish was actually this big. And your hero is going to get a reputation. That's the expression of the renown that they just gained from slaying that beast. And you're going to get somebody else is going to come up to you and want to join you, right? It's not you going and saying, hey, I've got my, maybe you have your pick of people that are coming after you or coming to join you. But then the same thing is if you walk into a town and there's a thief and you roll bad and he takes the last artifact or relic that you found, and you go to your guys, you're like, oh dude, I lost this. They're going to lose some respect for you. And maybe the the last person who joined you who hasn't had time to get to know you as a leader or believe in you as their one shot to fame and riches themselves, they're gonna skedaddle, and now you've got fewer dudes or dudettes following you into the next battle. So this, I mean, it's that idea of it's all reputation. It's this hero's singular ego and what they're able to accomplish then in the world.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the whole idea of like the thief bumping into them and getting this last artifact or whatever. But that's another interesting dimension to this, is it broadens the world of what these warbands can experience beyond simply another force.
Yeah.
Right? Like in general, our main touch points to the world as we play it in the game is restricted to whatever army we have fighting another representative of another army, right? But the stories, like that is to say, if you go to the novels or something like that, it's generally full of a bunch of individual characters and stuff like that who are often doing other different individualistic things.
Yep.
People who might not necessarily ever belong in a military force, right? Or whatever that happens to pass as for the particular race in question. This gives you a chance to bump up against them, right? And experience that corner of the world you don't often see.
Absolutely. And that's, yeah, I mean, and this also gives you an opportunity to, I mean, I think skirmish in general does. It's pretty open that you can pull from your Grand Alliance. But I think what I've tried to create too is now that you can create your own setting. And if I think the first version of this pack is really geared towards people who maybe have spent some time as a game master or are familiar with that sort of thing, because it does. This first version is going to require more creativity on the Realm Master's part. You can create your own space, you can create your own place, whatever it is. But what I did try and do is add some flavor. Our game is played in Shadespire because that's kind of the mood we were in when we started playing. And so there is some things that we try to do to flesh that out and give some, I guess, give some character to the space around it, and things like, like the thief, and there's just these little kind of layered mechanics that I tried to add. So we don't really change anything about skirmish. Maybe there's some of the things that skirmish just doesn't handle. 4 people on a team versus 1 person on a team, right?
Right. So sure.
We've added and tried to be as simple with that as we could. But we don't do anything I didn't do anything to balance skirmish out or make selections better or worse or whatever, because as the Realm Master, I can do whatever I want for their opposing force. So if somebody picks like some optimal build, I can just stack the deck, right?
Yeah.
As the Realm Master. So there's a lot of the balance stuff that when you've got 2 opposing forces that I don't have to worry about. But hopefully,
much like the traditional idea of the game master in anything or D&D or any role playing game, one of the great things you should be doing as a game master is tailoring challenges to your players, to your party, to make it interesting and dynamic and something for them to reasonably overcome. Right? That is the value. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Like the point being, it doesn't matter what people came with. You can tailor a story that fits their particular things, both aligning with what they're good at and exploiting what they're bad at, right? Depending on where you're going in that moment in the narrative.
Yep. What's interesting, what's great about skirmish as a game, as a palette for that, is like, so I've probably I'll say I've played 30 games of skirmish. That's not a lot, right? And so in that regard, I've played with bunches of different warbands and different scenarios. I feel like there's more variance in it than if you were to play the same army over 30 games, right?
Sure.
After 30 games of an Age of Sigmar army, you've got a lot of things figured out. I don't think the same is true with skirmish, because maybe it's you could look at like the amount of space per model and just how many variables, places they could go to determine what different. But like every time we play a game, and I think that, hey, if they've got a warband rating of if I've got 4 guys with rating of 50 each, then I can put 2 200 points on the table against them, like that might, like, by numbers, but if I spread my units out too much, or if I overextend my charges, or if the terrain's a little bit too dense or whatever, like I might be able to do take one of their guys down, their heroes down to a hair, or even kill one of them. And it might feel really like, I mean, there's been plenty of times where after the first turn, I'm like, whoa, I maybe need to pull back a little bit. But then they end up handily wiping out the army, by the third turn, because skirmish has so many more, is like so much swingier. And you can, it's hard to bring the full weight of an army to bear down on somebody. And so there's so many ways to try and figure out skirmish. So even in that regard, even when you have balance points and that sort of stuff, it's taking a little bit. That's the biggest challenge, is finding that balance to make sure that it feels like on one hand, well, and here's a place I'll say too, is that there is a kind of a leveling system as you gain in renown, and depending on where they go in the world, the truth is I could put an overwhelming force against them, and I have the ability as the realm master to make choices to pull back, right? To take the foot off the gas, or wipe them out and teach them a lesson, or whatever it is. As long as it fits the story, everybody loves it, right? Everybody gets into it. So another kind of one of those signals for narrative gaming is that the win isn't always the main goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's, because you have the rubric of a story around it, right? Of what's going on, you can lose and still accomplish your goals, or win and still fail to achieve your goals, right? If by the normal definitions of what's going on, that is to say, beat the other people off of the table. And so it allows you to play with a broader set of experiences. And the swinginess, I think, is actually one of the big advantages, because it allows for these bigger spikes of up and down, these increased levels of suspense and increased moments of surprise, right? And in general, I think that makes the games more interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And that's not to say that normal AOS games don't have those. They do, but at the same time, there's also, like, sometimes you can read the writing on the wall pretty fast, right? And it's although I do see turnarounds, but
that's the challenge for in my case, the 4 players, is figuring out how to work in concert with their varied abilities to overcome what I've got in front of them. The last game I had, I think we were probably at about 150 renown between the 4 of them, and I had basically 6 Iron Guts and 2 Mournfang coming at them, and I think a couple wizards. And after the first round, I was like, what? Because Iron Guts
are real deadly.
And I was like, I'm just gonna wipe through here. Now, they incidentally, one Iron Gut end up sneaking through and taking their main objective away from them, right? But in no way, but they were able to take out every single ogre that was on the table, and still have that one of their major loss was any one warband getting wiped out, and none of the warbands got wiped out. They were able to figure that out. They didn't get their major win, but they got a minor win. And so there's just so many variables there that even as the game master, it's hard for me to know how it's going to play out. But that's, again, part of the fun too, as the realm masters. You don't want it to all be predictable. You don't want yourself to know exactly how it's going to go. It allows you to enjoy the game as well. So
do we want to share some stuff? Would you like to share some imagery, some pages?
Yeah, let me walk you through. Let's see.
We have locked on you. We are ready.
All right. Can you see my document?
We can.
All right. So about 2 weeks ago, I was going to release this thing with a bunch of just chicken scratches on it for drawings and stuff. But I too took a Twitter poll, and it was overwhelming that people wanted to see a little more polish. So I met them halfway. So all the drawings in here are my own, and the design, I was a designer in a previous life. I also went a little bit away from making it look just like Games Workshop stuff. I know that's a popular thing, and not that it's bad, but it just doesn't necessarily fit with my drawing style. So, and one of the main central pieces that I've been working on is this shot of all my players and their heroes. So, Davey plays this Kradron Overlord Navigator Horror. My buddy Aaron plays this War Chanter Tarvis. Paul, Spider Paul, PJ Shard plays Lokir. And then
or a Lokir like fellow.
A Lokir like fella. And then well, he had a different name, but we kept saying Lokir, and then every time he finds treasure, he says, "Look here." And then over here is our buddy Kenny, who's playing Lore Master. His name escapes me because it's a long one. And then
it's probably something like Elfie. So come on.
And then these are future drawings and things that will add to it, or maybe they'll just stay sketches and whatnot. But
I kind of like them as sketches, to be completely honest. I mean, it's fine.
It's the world. Everything around them is incidental. The heroes are what's important in the warband they're building. So, but this was to immortalize the games we've been playing in order to suss out and figure out what we're doing here. So I hope everybody likes the art. All right. So what I do here is here's the first page. Enjoy this little piece of art for the Realm Master Vampire and the two other the players that he's guiding through the game.
Nice.
And in this first page, what I'm doing is just kind of this is kind of one of those pages. It's just here's how to play. And what I try to do here is because the other thing too is we don't have anything quite like this. Again, Sam's idea here with the Realm Masters really inspired me. And so this is just here's what I did to get started. Everything from here's this first couple paragraphs is thanks to everybody. Here's just a reset of what we were just talking about. What is it? What is a Renown and Ruin campaign? How does it differ? How does it differ from the skirmish game campaign? How does it but different from Dungeons and Dragons? And then
I have a question.
Yes.
Question here, sir. What font are you using?
This is Cambria.
Okay. I thought so.
Do you like it?
It has it. I do like it very much. But the general color of the pages, which is also interesting, the background template you've chosen.
Yeah.
Okay, of the like slightly faded, slightly yellow/red background with the like black touches to it, and the Cambria font is very reminiscent of like old school type books, like the expansion books for like Hero Quest and stuff like that. Have this sort of feel. I don't know if they were the exact same font, but it's a reminiscent font.
Well, I'm glad. Definitely when I started getting into Mordheim a little bit, I went and picked up the original book. And I definitely loved the hand-drawn drawings and that kind of style. And I definitely felt like I needed to lean that way a little bit more than the, more polished artwork, like Tyler Mengel's Tomb King book and that sort of stuff. So I'm glad.
This is great. I love it. Gives it its own unique character.
And that's me being a butterfly, unique butterfly. So, and then steps 1 through 6 are literally my pep talk of here's how you get started. Pick somebody to be the Realm Master, choose a setting, schedule the date, like get people together and schedule it, and then get things ready and don't have too much ready. In fact, my last or towards the back of this pack, I have your first game night battle plan all set. So you don't even have to have your first battle plan figured out. I got you.
Nice.
So that's this first page is just kind of like a warm up. This second page is really kind of all of the main concepts for building your army. What you're, it's an opportunity to get people to paint their models because there's only a little bit to do. This idea of gaining and losing renown as the central pillar. So the the four things. There's four things right now that you can cause you to gain or lose renown, and that's the battle plan objectives. And again, this is another narrative signal type thing, is where you lessen the winning of a battle plan by adding other things for the players to do, right? And so there's battle plan objectives, and even in there, I'll show you there's another goal. Well, the relics are really the other goal. In every single battle plan, there's a relic hunting mechanic, basically a mini game that you can play. And so if you don't want to be optimal in your movement to thwart your enemy, you can be sneaking one guy over here to try and root out some relics. Then you've got the classic quests where you get something for, you've got an NPC, a non-player character that you have in some place that shows up and they can talk to you and might have a quest for them, and it might be worth some renown above and beyond any objective or battle plan or that sort of thing. But if they succeed, they gain renown, but if they fail, they lose that renown. So you're kind of gambling by taking on that quest. And then narrative objectives, if it's kind of one of those catch-alls, right? If the realm master wants to reward some type of play or something that somebody does because it's in character or it's in the spirit of the game, then you can reward them, a renown as a pat on the head kind of thing.
Sure. Absolutely. So it just sort of sets the agenda, right?
Yep. And then this concept of there's two other concepts in here. There's the places of respite. I have to start everything with R in this. It's a OCD thing that I kind of have when I design things. So there's a lot of alliteration in here with so places of respite, places to rest, to calm down. These are your save points. But they're also kind of where you get to spend a little bit more time role playing, I guess. It gives you opportunities to you're not fighting for your lives, you're not, between battles or whatever, you're just kind of back at home base. And there is a mechanic I'm working on that wherever you're kind of the place of respite, there might be multiples in place. You can make one of them your home base, and your influence will resonate out from that place that you choose, right? So if you have at a certain level and you resonate, your renown is large enough, then maybe when you're within your resonant boundaries, you get bonuses to searching for relics because you're not as scattered or worried about being caught out because you're too far from home base. So there's a few mechanics like that where you could choose where your home base is, and that's another one of those things that helps the players just decide more about what their warband, kind of the character of their warband, right? I never got to play a D&D game where you could build your own castles and do all that kind of stuff. This kind of fits that a little bit, but without the bookkeeping.
No, it's awesome.
Then the other one is this idea of the Renown Journal, and this is kind of a character sheet. This is where you record. This is I never thought that I would use a spreadsheet as a design element for a narrative role-playing anything in my whole damn life. I didn't think that I'd be using a spreadsheet as a template, but it's basically an accounting system of here's my gains and here's my losses. And I'll show you a sample of that here at the end. But those are kind of the main things that and this journal is your character sheet. It's not just numbers. Like it's your journal. This is where you enter in. Each hero could make their own account of what just happened in that battle, and there could be 4 different accounts of the battle, just like somebody's journal would be.
Sure. Well, let's just say Tom has been using Excel spreadsheets as part of his role playing, as one of his role playing tools for years. I assure you.
That may be true.
I believe it. All right. So then this gets into more detail, and this is kind of your quick start guide or your cheat sheet. These are all your mini tables. There's not a lot of them. Basically, whenever you in any right now, I try and make any battle plan. If you have a major victory, it's 3 renown up. A minor victory is D3 renown. Minor loss is D3 renown, and then major loss is -3 renown. And this is per player, so they don't share that. They each lose that much. And then this idea that renown level that at 50. So I'm using a map, a hex map in my game.
Okay, sure.
But you could abstract that and say that it's a certain distance away. Again, it's really up to the realm master what they want to do. But I'm using hexes. So at level 2, at 50 renown, which all my players are just eking up to that, from your place of respite, wherever your home base is, you can go out 2 hexes, and people know you there, right? Your reputation has extended that far.
Gotcha.
And you have a certain level of safety or a certain level of kind of confidence in that space.
Yep. And then as you're gaining power, your hex influence is increasing.
Yep. And by using a map campaign, and I don't have much in here regarding the map, and that will probably be in a next version. But if somebody's already kind of, if some other force has kind of a sphere of influence, and your sphere of influence bumps up into their sphere of influence, there's some contention there, right?
Yeah, sure.
If your renown goes out 2 hexes and then that overlaps somebody else's kind of space, if they're of an opposing group, that could create tension. That means they hear about you at the very least, right?
Right.
So these are very abstracted. We haven't played past 50, so these are just rough estimates of growth.
Gotcha.
So don't take too much stock there, but this is one of those areas where I hope playtesting and other people looking at it will help.
Playtesting numbers are always really important for stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So here's the relic hunt. And basically here on any game, any battle plan, if you hit here's another one where we just switched to this a couple of games ago, so we're still in the midst of testing this, but it felt like a much more open and free way of doing it. That you touch a piece of terrain at the beginning of your movement phase. So that means you have to have moved there at the end of your last movement phase. You roll a dice, and you get a D6 chart on what you might find. Or first you roll a D6 on a 5-up, you find something, and then later on you can roll to see if that something is a relic that has the. Basically, I let them choose what the relic is. It will improve any attribute that is on your war scroll by 1. But you can only have one of any given type. So you can only have one attribute in your one relic in your warband that gives you a +1 to hit.
Sure.
And this just forces you to if you have another relic and you put, you have to use the +1 bravery on somebody at some point, right?
Sure. You got to diversify your bonds. Yes, yep. I get it.
So it's a place to explore. This particular mechanic lets us explore what's valuable and what's not, right? If people are using it. Here's the respite. This one's kind of cool, and I have one example of I have a pre-generated place of respite that is the main place in our campaign. But if you were to have a map campaign and you said, hey, you came across a camp or a shelter, you could roll and say, you could do a roll of a 1d6 to see if it's a small shelter, a small camp, or a bazaar. And depending on that, down here would influence what kind of things you could recruit, right? If it's just a small camp, then it's probably just heroes out here. But if you're in a market or bazaar, your grunts are going to be there. So it's kind of one of those things to just change you have a place to rest, you have a place to build, to realize your renown, but you may not have all your options.
Have you thought about how creating spheres of recruitment? And what I mean by that is this is something we played around with in our original Mordenheim design. And we were in one of my frustrations that they didn't do in Skirmish. So in Skirmish, if you're Grand Alliance order, your order, and you can just grab from anybody, anywhere, for your follower, for your warband or whatever. You can just grab the best, most optimized or whatever of those things. And so what we did in the original Mordheim that wasn't this was that you had the most immediate circle was what we consider your warband, and it was a pre-existing list of, like, in that instance, it was units that had synergy with you. The best thing that we would now call them are like sub-factions.
Yeah.
And then within that,
the idea being, like, I think what you're getting at is in your group, like, so going back to your original group, right? You've got the lore master, and he has kind of some different things going on. Like, I know he's got a little skink in his party and some other dudes, right? So, but maybe he's got a great reputation with high elves and stuff like that. Almost more of like having differing reputations amongst the different sub factions in your your alliance.
And if you're going to attract followers, it's easier for him to attract Eldritch Council followers than it is maybe for him to attract Seraphon.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. So there is right now the Grim Exchange in this main location that I have my players at. It's open, partially because of, again, not knowing where to put the pressure,
right?
But there is a location in my map where you would only see it's an orc camp.
Yep.
So you're really only gonna find orcs there.
Right.
And again,
that points to the fact that you do have a realm master. So, like, that person is certainly empowered to make those kinds of decisions, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Flip those levers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and as people butt up against other factions, so for instance, I'll get this. Yeah, as you butt up against other factions, depending on your choices, your renown would go up. It's so, like you said, renown is just is an up or down, but its influence can be positive or negative. Because if you're if you did something and it got you lots of renown, but it's a bad reputation for party B, right, and a good reputation for party A, then you're going to be able to recruit from A, but not from B.
Right.
Right. If, for example, you did win and achieve your objective, but to do so, you had to stab a bunch of people in the back.
Yep.
Right. And stuff like that. And, like, you sacrificed one of your own people, one of their lives, threw them away and stabbed a bunch of people in the back, but you got your victory. Well, that's gonna have some very obvious consequences, right?
Yeah. One of Paul, in fact, his Lokir guy, his fleet master, was embarrassed by something in one of our very first games. They ended up going down into this tunnel, and he murdered his whole party and had to rehire them once he got to the place of respite. So there's
nice.
So that no one would know, by the way, being the key there. Yes.
Yeah,
that he had done this embarrassing thing.
Exactly. So but yeah, I mean, so that's one of those perfect places. I haven't I've tried to ask my players, hey, who are you going to hire? And I haven't been consistent with that. So usually I'm just rolling with it for now. But that's a great way of adding some consequences to what players do.
Yep.
All right. And then here's this idea that when you go into a crowded place, there's just some random chance that your relics are going to get and that are going to get stolen. If the place is crowded, if it's a small camp or a market or bazaar, then on a 6, if you have 1 to 2 relics, then it's less of a chance. The more relics you have, the easier they're going to be to steal. And then if you lose that relic, that relic is worth 3 renown, and you can equip it on somebody. But if you lose that relic, then you lose renown, and so that may be a cascading effect. You lose the relic, you lose the renown, you lose a follower, potentially.
Well, and I think this is, like, to me, I love this idea, and to me, this is, like, as you mentioned, one of the things you want to see here is, some feedback and stuff like that. This is one of those places that I think is ripe for exploration by other people who are playing this. Because when you think about, like, the sort of things you would run into in these urban environments and what we would traditionally think of as, like, interesting random encounters, right? There is just a near endless source of this. So this, to me, is one of those places where, the Realm Master can really experiment, and you could really add and continue to expand a lot of what people see in this kind of a space.
Yeah, I could imagine there being I mean, especially in a place of respite, you could do things. I think somebody may have mentioned this on a response to one of my videos, but the idea of you could go in and do a brawl, go have a contest or do an arm wrestle, and see if there's something that happens inside the place of respite that gains you or loses you some renown, some games of chance or something like that.
Absolutely. You go in. How about this? You go in if it's a busy area. You try to rob something, right? You try to get in on some criminal activity to steal something from somebody else, and not necessarily even another player. By the way, this can just be like a traditional heist, right? Of like, we're gonna go in, we're gonna get all this stuff, we're gonna get out, and that could go wrong. There could be gambling. Like your players could get involved in a high stakes gambling match and either win or lose. Like there's just a near endless sort of level of these kinds of like pseudo, more civilization based things that they could be exploring in between games, right?
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm trying to work through is I mean, in Age of Sigmar, we don't have a lot of attributes like you do in D&D or other games to facilitate some of those things. So how do you create some approximations? How do you give bonuses or negatives to the D6? So there's absolutely, it's definitely untapped ground, I think, in terms of role play in Age of Sigmar. I mean, I'm excited for Age of Sigmar role play to come out later this summer. Maybe there's some things like that we'll be able to just kind of layer on here, But yeah, so there's a ton of space there. And then the other is just these little prompts for role playing. So when one of the things is when you arrive at a place of respite, what's one story that your followers are going to tell about your hero? Just try and say it out loud or write it down in your journal. When you're at a place of respite, look for information, talk to people. What are you going to say? And then that leads to the idea of non-player characters, NPCs, and then just a couple of, the big three, give them a name, give them a motivation, and what would you get out of them? A quest of some sort. And then the last thing is you get quests from these non-player characters. So here's a couple of ideas: find a location, find a relic, or some other sort of big objective. So it's just a way to again break out of the mechanic of the battle plan, and say, hey, you have power and control to do some other stuff.
Right.
So from here, so these are the first 3 pages. Hey, how do you do this? Here's your, how do you get started? Here's the core concepts, and then here's your cheat sheet. From here, we get right into kind of, these are the next 3 spots are straight out of our campaign. So it's not a full campaign, but it gives you kind of 3. It gives you a start, a middle, and an end for maybe a 3 session. The first one is, this is what we call ours is the Trail of Fears, and part of that came out of Davey, his Caradhran Overlord Horador, is looking for the secrets of the trade routes to Shadespire, because at one point in time those trade routes would have been huge, and the KO would love to know more about that, specifically his Barak,
right.
But it's a no-fly zone. Something is keeping those big ships from getting here. So what is that? So, but the idea that these
is that a real piece of lore, or did you think of that? The idea that like over Shadespire and this kind of stuff is sort of a no-fly zone.
That's just my thinking. I just
no. Here's why I say that's funny, because when Tom and I were working on our like Shadespire Mordheim update,
yeah,
one of the things I thought about when we were talking about the exploration of the realm, I was like, well, what about like KO ships and stuff like that? Couldn't people just fly to any zone? Doesn't that kind of ruin it? And we were like, well, there's a no-fly zone over Shadespire. For whatever reason, things just crash when they get near there. And I was like, done and dusted. Yep. So it's just funny that we both arrived at the same conclusion. Very quickly.
Maybe I heard it from you guys if you'd ever mentioned it, or maybe
Probably
it is.
Not.
I doubt it. I think it's just one of those things of like, it's just one of those things that kind of clicks and makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
If you adventure in the bazaar, like in the mercantile area, there is one of the things you can find in the exploration phase of our like Shadespire skirmish campaign stuff was a fallen KO ship, and you
Right.
you can loot the remnants of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Stealing that.
More than welcome to. You're clearly more responsible than us. Let me just say that.
I would say, and Eric, just a heads up, like I can send our stuff along, so that you can pilfer.
Oh, great.
The like we have the five sectors of the city all written out with random encounter reward stuff for that you may be able to port directly over.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, so that's where I've named these routes, these forgotten routes, trade routes that the KO are looking for as the Trail of Fears.
Right.
And so, and of course I have to pun everything. So sorry.
Nothing wrong with that.
So the Trail of Fears, this sets up kind of our space. And the very first game we played was these crossroads outside of Shadespire, north of the city. And the storm came up, and when the storm cleared a little bit, these 4 different adventurers or 4 different parties, warbands, were face to face. And I asked them to resolve, why are they here? Like, why would they work together? And so, you know, and part of it, we have all 3 order and then 1 destruction warband. And so they came up with some good stuff. You know, the KO had worked with the Iron Jaws some already and some other things.
I hear they do that a lot.
Yeah.
Best of friends.
And then, you know, the elves, you know, we figured out ways for the elves to play nice with people, etc.
That's much more difficult, obviously.
Yeah, that's the miracle here.
Yeah.
So then we set up this one is just kind of like a breakthrough kind of game. The players just need to there's a random deployment, and this was a great way to just kind of get the warbands to be mixed up on the table, so that maybe this model would have to help out that model and create some opportunity for kind of owing each other something, right? You know, like, hey, you did that for me, I'll do that for you. And then this was a big bone storm, so there's a negative. They rolled on this time of war table, and I think I gave them a bunch of them, but basically, like, it halved their movement, and if they didn't move a certain distance, then skeletons would come out of the sandstorm and attack them, and then some of the skeletons would have loot to drop. And so it was the very first game of trying something new, and so I can't wait till I get to do it again and make it better. Well, this is written with those kind of better ideas in mind too. And then one of the things that we came up with that's a little bit different, we tried to use Triumph and Treachery turn order, but what that ended up being was that they would all get to choose a combat before I would. And that really made, no matter what force I threw at them, it made it pretty easy to knock out the heavy players. So now we just do it just in combat. So they all activate at the same time. They all do their hero phase at the same time. They all do their all their steps. But when it comes to combat, they get to pick one combat. I get to pick one combat. They get to pick one. I get to pick one.
Yeah.
Have you considered the other option here, by the way, that you could look at and play around with?
Yeah.
As you go forward, is you could do a bolt action style activation.
Oh, drawing everybody.
Yep. Everybody has a number of like tokens, dice, whatever that represents some of their stuff, and then it all goes in a bag, you know, including the bad guys, right? The bad guys all get a certain number of dice, and then you just draw, and people get to then do a thing. So just other options.
Vince, that's not old school enough. That's Battlemaster style initiative.
Also fine. Bolt action being the current reference, I think of many games use this, to be clear. I'm aware of many. Don't at me. I'm just saying, like, that's, I think, one of the most popular current implementations of it.
Indeed.
Yep. I've liked that one, so I think that could be a fun one to test out. And that's been nice too. I've got a group of players that are really willing to try something new. They're not stuck with what we did last time.
Right.
We don't have to do it again. So that's important as well. So that's the first one, is just making it through this dust storm towards the city. I had a couple of options. They could go through the main gates, or they could go through, find an alternate route. That is less important. But that after you play a couple of games with them and figure out how they get inside, here is a basically a place of respite sheet.
Nice.
This is the Grim Exchange, and this is some flavor text about it, and then all of those kind of cheat sheet stuff that you would roll to figure out what the exchange was like or this place are already pre-rolled, basically. So
Yep.
here's a bit of text, and then the justification for that this is crowded. Here's a in this case the anvils of Heldenhammer control this gate, and so things are a little bit less tense than they might be in other places, and so there's a -1 to the rogue's roll, so you're less likely to have something stolen here. Your followers here, you can recruit any unit because it's just the melting pot if there was one here, and then it's automatically a base camp for when you start, and then is easy to return to being your base camp later on. And then some warbands and NPCs. So the Stormcast are holding this, and at any given time, there's about 400 warband rating of about 400. There's a devoted of Sigmar contingent here that preaching the word of Sigmar, trying to kill all death and chaos. And they've got about a warband rating of 80, which is big when you're just starting out, but maybe not so much later on.
Right.
And there's a quest that could go along with this to go and find the Crypt of a Vampire. And then there's just random undead around. So warband rating of 20 there. And then I added this, NPC, Axos the Assessor. If you bring relics here and do a find roll, it gets a +1 to your roll. And then this just kind of came out of playing when my crew was finally like, okay, I'm going to role play something. I'm looking for clues on something. I'm asking around for tips. And so I plan to have eventually have a few more rumor engines options. So, maybe you learn about these quests, right? There's a statue that has been seen and said to have an artifact on the statue, but it's never seen in the same location. And in fact, I've been using this statue here and playing it. You can't see that screen.
We cannot see you.
It's my Empire Griffin statue.
Nice.
Gotcha.
And I've just been playing it. I've been placing it in like a lot of our battle plans, and they think it's just me using up as much terrain as I can. But this is my planting a seed for this statue quest.
Nice.
And then they just finished the Master Relic Hunter, and that one is actually the next. So what I like about this though is this just creates these little places, and gives them some statistics and some numbers to work off of. And so I think too that this might be something where if I have a faction that they go up against, having something like this for a faction, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like an NPC, a faction has a name and it has a motivation and it has kind of how it will react when confronted or when its territory is threatened, right?
Yep.
So I think that will be a mechanic or a design element that I need to explore more of, like this.
So as we're running short on time here,
Yeah,
you want to walk us through the rest quick and talk about where you're going for the future?
Yeah. So and then this last one's this Master Relic Hunter, and they it's based. What I do every time is I take one of a battle plan that's a skirmish battle plan, either out of the skirmish book or out of something else, and I just try and make it interesting for a group of people and in the story that's being told. And that's probably something. So a couple of things that I want to be doing is, one, I want to do my next set of videos that I concentrate on are likely going to be similar to what we just talked through, but going step by step and little by little, and so that a new realm master or their players could go and watch these and get an understanding of what's going on. One of the things that I think would be helpful is a series on taking and creating different battle plans. So for instance, tomorrow night, my players are going to be going up against a monster that they got to go and hunt. And so there's a battle plan out of the 2016 General's Handbook that's a Rage of Fury or something like that. It's a hunt a monster thing. So I'm going to adapt that. So I might do a video on how to adapt that one to kind of the story. So that's a video series is going to be one thing. I'm really going to probably stop creating for a little bit and see what feedback I get. And it might be a little bit before that feedback comes. But I think one of the things I'd love to do is take more of the campaign that I've created, the map stuff, and some of the other battle plans that I've run our team through, our crew through, and turn those into put those as part of the pack or a separate pack, right?
Sure.
The Trail of Fears campaign pack or something. So,
That'd be neat.
is there anything that you guys think that direction I should be going, next steps from your experience, or that would be a good
I think you're right to get it out there now. Let me just say that. Like, I think that you've got the right idea. Get it out there. Let's have some people play and let people play around and give you feedback. I mean, I think that it's at this point, you're in a good expansion phase. You've laid an excellent foundation, and now it's just, building some more meat up on the bones, right?
Yeah.
More locations, more NPCs, more rumors, more battle plans, all this kind of stuff, right? Just more for the people to explore and experience. If you look at the classic things like Mordheim, what was the big expansions for them was going in new places, having new, battle plans, as it were, where they weren't called that then, but that kind of stuff, right? So just more different relics to find, all those kinds of things. So yeah,
it's good.
Introducing various dramatis personae, other unique people that they could meet in the world, who may or may not join them for a short time or something like that. Because you've got a cooperative thing, you could have an NPC join them for some amount of time and then go on their way, right?
Yeah,
They're there for a short amount of time.
I had Tarvis, our war chanter, decided to solve a puzzle through brute force. He toppled a mausoleum statue and then became cursed, and now he has a spirit host following him. That when during his hero phase he rolls, and if he rolls a 1, he can't do anything that turn. So there's things like that where you get with this kind of campaign, you get to just do stuff like that.
You get to play.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everyone's excited about it.
Awesome. So everything will be linked below. The pack is releasing this Friday, so people will be able to download it, check it out. I will link your channel and your Twitter down there because I'm sure you'll be announcing it on both of those. And that'll have all the download details and stuff like that, as well as where you can give feedback. I know it has it in the pack, but I'm sure people can just email you or whatever for their feedback. I think you started as well. Are you going to do a TGA thread on it as well?
Yeah. So I'm probably gonna use a Google link or a bit.ly link of some sort, and then shoot that on TGA and try and host some conversation on TGA. There's a great community of kind of skirmish and narrative kind of rules writers over there. People create there's probably half a dozen different like skirmish rule sets or like little add-ons to try and create campaigns out there. So it's bumping.
Awesome. Very much looking forward to it. I think it's fantastic. I know, and one of the things that's interesting to me is, like I've said before, we usually play 3 or 4 player games, right? Like I often have 3 or 4 people on my game night. So this could be another chance for us to explore something new and have something where we're not always doing a 3 or 4 person mega battle, right?
Yeah, I keep joking, but my crew doesn't want to play anything else. I can't get them to roll up an actual AOS game. We'll play some Shadespire other times over lunch, but when it comes to making time in their busy schedule to play something, this is right now what they want to play. So,
well, there you go. I hope lots of people download it, play it, and give good feedback and help you build it out. I think it's awesome work. Looks great, man. So very much looking forward to it. Check it out. Check out all those links down below. As always, Eric, thank you, sir. Much appreciated for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For all of you, thank you very much for watching. It is certainly deeply appreciated. As always, Tom, good job on your new equipment. Glad to see we're bringing it up to a B- level. I think we've achieved it. First show of year 4, solid B-. So there we go. All right. For all of you out there, thank you very much. And as always, we'll see you next time.